This week, Extension Stormwater Specialist Jason Vogel shows elements of a bioretention and rain garden demonstration project in Oklahoma City. OSU-Stillwater urban forester Chris Martin visits with a student who gained valuable experience with an on-campus internship with OSU's Landscape Services. Barbara Brown cooks a Canellini bean soup, and we have horticultural tips for November. Gardening is a production of the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the land grant mission of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University, dedicated to improving the quality of life of the citizens of Oklahoma through research-based information. Underwriting assistance is provided by TLC, Oklahoma's leading garden center, Southwood Landscape and Nursery, Tulsa's source for great gardens, and the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing.
Good afternoon. My name is Eloise Triplett. I'm one of our many ambassadors at the Botanic Gardens of Oklahoma State University. It's a wonderful group to be in. We help maintain these gardens and it's lots of fun. I have your November horticultural tips for you. Lawn and turf tips for November are: fertilize your cool season grasses like fescue with 1 pound of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet. Continue to mow fescue as needed at 2 inches and water during dry conditions. Control your broadleaf winter weeds like dandelions. Keep the falling leaves off fescue to avoid damage to the foliage.
Hello, today we're in eastern Oklahoma City at our bioretention and rain garden demonstration project, where we're looking at removal of nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment from the runoff that runs into the Hog Creek watershed. The Hog Creek watershed drains into Lake Thunderbird, which is a drinking water source for Norman, Del City, and Midwest City. So the quality of the water that comes out of this drainage is of very high importance. Because of that, we got an EPA 319 grant, and we've retrofitted a neighborhood here in Deerfield Estates with some rain gardens and bioretention cells. Rain gardens and bioretention cells are generally considered about the same thing, but a lot of times the difference is a difference of scale. So we're going to start out here with something that I would probably call a rain garden, which is more of a residential scale, and build into something that's a larger scale that would more generally be called a bioretention cell. So here is our most upstream, or in the headwaters of this drainage, rain garden, which is kind of in a gently sloping drainage here, and we have a number of different plant types. We have some fountain grass, we have knockout roses, some liriope, monkey grass, and finally some crepe myrtles. And we've designed this so that it accepts the water from upstream. It gently ponds it about 4 to 6 inches, and then it overflows. But while it's ponded, it's able to infiltrate into the groundwater. And an important thing to note is that we have hardwood mulch in here. The hardwood mulch is denser. It's not going to float off like the rest of our lighter mulch would that you would typically use in your landscape. So here is the second of our rain gardens. This is actually in the same neighborhood as the first one, a little bit smaller, where we're using some of the same types of plants. We're using our crepe myrtles, our knockout roses, and then this one we have some daylilies in along with our hardwood mulch, and it's finished off with some brick that was left over from when they built their house over here. So we were able to really tie this into the house and also tie it into our other rain garden that is just a little bit further upstream. So now we're at a rain garden about halfway down our drainage way into the neighborhood, and this is a little bit larger bowl. It's a little bit deeper. This is really sandy soil, so we're able to get some more ponding in there, and it can still drain within the 24 hours that we want so that we don't create mosquito habitat. Here once again we have our fountain grass. We have some of these bunch grasses. We have black-eyed Susan, pampas grass, and once again our knockout roses. And you will notice that we have different types of plants at different layers within our bowl. That's because this is going to stay wet for a longer period of time. Those plants are going to have wet feet, and then as you go up the bowl, they're going to be drier for longer periods of time. So we got our black-eyed Susan, some of our pampas grass up there that are able to survive with a little bit less water and don't have to worry about having their feet wet for so long. On this one, we also have a dry creek bed that comes down here through these trees. This particular homeowner was having some erosion issues, so we put some large rock in there. And then as the water comes down, then it comes and it fills up into this bowl. One thing that we do need to keep an eye on, and one thing that we actually had to work with this year, is that there may be sediment sources that arise upstream of your rain garden that you weren't aware of or weren't existing when you put your rain garden in. So this happened at this neighborhood where the neighbor put their garden in this year after we had constructed it last year. So we'll go up here and we'll look at some of the things that we did to kind of keep that sediment out of our rain garden. So up here at the upstream end of our dry creek bed, where we had some sediment issues coming in, especially this spring when we had really high flows and all the rainfall, we used a couple different BMPs to kind of keep our sediment out. And basically we're trying to slow it down, filter it out, and give it a chance to settle. So the two things that we did, we used this. This is a wattle. It's basically something that's used for a construction site, and it slows the water down, ponds it up, and gives that sediment a chance to settle out. And then along with that, we brought some sod in here, because before it was just some of the natural grasses here in his backyard. So this sod really protects that soil. Vegetation can be your best defense against erosion. So with those two things working together, we were really able to slow down the sediment, to stop it. It might require a little bit of clean out, but hopefully next year we won't get record-breaking rains again and we won't have to have that issue. But that's something that you need to keep an eye on. So now we're at the bottom of the drainage in a large-scale bioretention cell that is collecting much of the water from the entire neighborhood, the entire drainage that's coming down to this point. This is about an 8,000 square foot bioretention cell that is located just outside of the 100-year floodplain, and it has about 6 inches of sand media underneath it with a underdrain system. We want to have this drain, but because it is lower down in the watershed, the water table is a little bit higher, so we have an underdrain system in there so that once again we can drain this in 24 to 48 hours. In this one, we kind of designed this to be built like an inverted golf green, because this particular homeowner likes to shoot his golf balls down into this area, and we kind of got creative and decided that we would try to make this look like an inverted golf green. So we have Tiff Bermuda grass in the bottom of our bioretention cell that's built into our sand. The Tiff is going really well. It's withstanding some of the ponding that we have going on, even in the really higher rains that we had this spring when there was even flooding in this area, so that caused the water to be on there for longer than a week. It still stood up very, very well. In addition to this, we have our cypress plants. We have a sand trap over here on the side, and then we have some cottonless cottonwoods that we put up kind of just to frame our entire system. But once again, this is about 8,000 square feet, so this can handle a good chunk of the water that's coming off of our whole neighborhood. It's kind of our last bioretention cell in there. So we have smaller scale ones at our upper part of it, middle scale ones as we go farther down, and then down here at the end to intercept everything that's coming off of our neighborhood, we have a larger scale bioretention cell that's filtering out a lot of our pollutants. So if you're interested in learning more about bioretention cells and rain gardens, check out our website at lid.okstate.edu and click on the bioretention cell link.
Tree and shrub tips for November are: prune your bleeder trees like maples, elms, and birch in early part of winter. Prune only for structural and safety purposes. Wrap young, thin bark trees with commercial protective material to prevent winter sun scald. Apply dormant oil for scale-infested trees and shrubs before the temperatures fall below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Follow your label instructions. Continue to plant bald and burlapped trees. Your flower tips for November are: tulips can still be successfully planted through the middle of November. Leave foliage on asparagus, mums, and other perennials to help insulate crowns from harsh winter conditions.
I'm Chris Martin. I'm the urban forester here at Oklahoma State University on the Stillwater campus. And today we just want to talk to you a little bit about internship possibilities that we have. The Landscape Services Department here at Facilities Management. It used to be the physical plant, but we've gone through a reshuffling and renaming. So it's Landscape Services. And part of working with OSU is it's a land-grant university, and part of the mission of that is education. So we really wanted to try to tie it in with the internship. And we do a lot of other things as well. We do a summer behind-the-scenes tour, OSU beautification projects. We do some tours and talks throughout the year. And we do QR code signs that with your cameras, if you have the app, you can cue in on it and it'll bring you up to educational information and websites. So this year we actually were offering 2 internships. One was with landscape design and the other one was an urban forestry internship. And the idea with most internships is to give the student a real world experience, hands-on experience of what they learn in the classroom, to kind of re-emphasize that, but also to get some experiences that they may not gain in the classroom. And with that, I want to introduce to you our urban forestry intern from the summer. Her name is Elizabeth Corbishley. Hi Elizabeth, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good, good. I just want to talk to you a little bit about the internship and how it went. First, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your major?
Well, my major is actually natural resources, ecology, and management with an option in forestry. There's several different options within it, including wildlife and rangeland, fire ecology, and there's even a pre-vet option as well. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with it, but I chose the forestry one because it just seemed the most interesting to me.
And what was the reason you applied for the internship? What were your expectations of the internship?
Well, the internship, when I first heard about it, I first thought it was just kind of an interesting thing. I'd never thought that the university would do anything like that. Yeah. And I had just learned about our urban forester and met you the past year. But I had also met an urban forester in Oklahoma City, and he kind of got the idea in my head that urban forestry is a thing and it might be something that I'd be interested in.
Yeah, and it's one of those fields I think that a lot of forestry majors may not really think about. So, and that's part of the other reason we're offering this, is to get people to think outside of the box a little bit. There's a lot of traditional forestry methods and horticulture methods, but urban forestry is becoming much more involved, and there's a lot more jobs out there now. So the more opportunities that you're exposed to, I think the better. So, that's the stuff that you don't get in the class, the hands-on experience that you may talk about it a little bit, but it's much different talking about it than getting out there and actually meeting with contractors and going over tree preservation and reviewing plans and trying to preserve the mature trees we have here on campus. So part of that as well is the GIS and GPS, the tree inventory that we did. We completed it about a year ago. And you did a little bit of work on that. Could you tell me a little about that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that was something that I didn't realize campuses across the nation were doing, especially Oklahoma State. And after working with that all summer and being involved with it, I think it's actually a pretty neat program, because you can use the information collected in the inventory to see how much a single tree is worth on the campus for aesthetics or carbon sequestration.
One last question, I guess, is, what would you say to future or potential interns? Like, is there some advice you could give them, or some reason that you think they should apply?
Yeah, I would recommend that everyone apply for any internship. This is the first internship I've ever had, and first internship I've had with forestry. So I was pretty happy with how everything went, and just the whole atmosphere at OSU is pretty amazing, and I feel like I learned a lot from it.
So another question is, if you're a high school student and you're thinking of coming to college and choosing a major, what would you say to them about why you chose forestry and what it has to offer for them?
Well, I've talked to a lot of freshmen recently, and I think the main thing that I would talk to high school students about is the same thing I talk to them about. And that's the fact that I think a lot more people want to be outdoors and be out hiking and camping and doing things. And with forestry, you're able to do that as a career. So you can do that and get paid for it and get to see places you've never been before. I mean, it can really take you a lot of interesting places. It's already taken me really cool places. So through forestry, you can do all of that stuff, and there's actually a lot of positions opening up in governmental agencies right now for forestry. Yeah. So if high school students are worried about job security, I would definitely recommend this major.
Good to know.
Miscellaneous tips for November are: gather and shred your leaves, add to the compost, use as mulch, or till into garden plots. Clean and store your garden and landscape tools. Coat with a light application of oil to prevent rusting. Drain fuel tanks, irrigation lines, and hoses, and do bring your hoses indoors. Your fruit and nut tips for November are: delay pruning your fruit trees until next February or March before the bud break. Harvest pecans and walnuts immediately to eliminate deterioration of the kernel.
Today I'm doing something that's a combination of fresh and preserved, and you may switch some of these from being fresh to preserved when you make it at home, but it's a good example of how you can make something taste really, really good by just adding a few fresh things and still relying on convenience. So the first thing I've got here is a big pot, because it's cannellini bean soup, and I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm using a flavorful olive oil. You could use a different kind of oil, anything that is not going to smoke on you too much. We're going to add some other things to it, so smoking shouldn't become an issue because some of the water is going to come out of the vegetables. I'm going to throw one of these in and see. Not quite where I'd like it to be. This is also going to be a soup because of the beans and because of the carrots and because of some of the other things we're adding. It's going to be really high in fiber. So if you're interested in looking at that aspect of your diet and boosting that a little bit, anything you use with beans is going to do that. But this one's got a lot of beans in it, so it's going to do it very well. I've got basically 1 large onion, or 2 cups is what it measures out to be. So we'll throw those in there. And then I've got 2 cups of diced carrots. We're going to add those to the pot also. And we're going to stir these around for about 5 minutes, letting them just saute. We want the onion to become transparent, or a little translucent, I guess, more than transparent. So stir it from time to time, and about 5 minutes we'll do that. While that's happening, you can make sure you've got all your other ingredients ready to go. We're going to have some break times in there so that if everything isn't ready when you first start, that's fine. That'll save you a little bit of time, as long as you've got the time during the prep that you can dedicate to this and not having to go check on the kids or bring in the newspaper or something like that. Whole cooking time should be close to about a half an hour. Okay, we don't want the onion to brown. We just want it to get this nice, lovely, translucent color. It is a fairly mild onion, not an exceptionally sharp one, but you could use a yellow onion or a white onion. The onion, the carrot, the garlic, these are some of the components that we're adding that are fresh. That may or may not take you a little bit of time to get ready. Both of those, or all of these things, are things that you could do earlier in the day so that you could shorten up the length of time it takes you to get this ready. I've added the garlic to that. It was 2 cloves. I'm also going to add a half a teaspoon of dried mint and a tablespoon of cumin. Now I want to get a little bit, these are obviously preserved as well, so we've switched from the fresh to the preserved items here for a little bit. I'm going to stir these around together before I add any of the other ingredients, just so we get some of the toasting on some of those ingredients as well. Now, interestingly, when you first put these in, the first thing that I smell as it goes in is the mint, and that is really predominant. And then as it cooks around for 1 to 2 minutes before you add other ingredients, at that point you start to begin to smell the cumin much more predominantly. All right, we'll assume that I've done that for about a minute or 2, and now I'm going to add to this a quart of chicken broth. Now you could make this vegan if you wanted to use vegetable broth. I don't have any problem with that. What I would have a problem with is if you use something that's really high in salt, like water and a bouillon cube. That tends to unbalance the flavors a little bit. We are going to add some salt later on, however, so if you do that, then just eliminate that salt and make sure if possible that you use unsalted beans, just not to throw everything off balance. Also going to throw in there 2 bay leaves. Now these generally take a fair amount of time for the bay flavor to come out and actually start enhancing the flavor of the dish that you're working on, usually as much as an hour. So because it takes that long, I'm adding 2. If we were going to simmer this for a longer period of time, 1 would probably work. And then I've got 3 cups of beans. Now these are the cannelli beans, which it's named for, Canellini beans, excuse me. And these were canned beans, so that was about 3 cups. You could use your own homemade. You could make your own and freeze them. This would be an excellent use for that as well. We're going to bring this up to a boil. And when we get it up to a boil, we're going to turn it down and let it simmer for about 10 minutes. The thing we're going for here is to make sure that the carrots have gotten tender. They're the slowest thing that's going to tenderize. The beans are already cooked. The onion pretty much got taken care of during that sautéing process. So the carrots are our limiting factor. So it may take you 10 minutes, it may take you 5, it may take you 15 to get the carrots down to where we want them to be. So time it by testing carrots. Okay, after your carrots are pretty close to done, stir in about 1/4 cup of couscous. Now the purpose of the couscous is actually as a thickener. Many times in soups we use cornstarch or flour as a thickener, but you can also use things like couscous in small amounts. So 1/4 cup for 8 cups of broth works out fairly well. If you want a little thicker than this, you could add a little bit more. You could also smash a few of the beans if you were so inclined. All right, at this point, I'm going to add some seasoning. I'm going to add a teaspoon of kosher salt and a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. And then the last of our fresh ingredients, which is, let me see, 2 cups of packed spinach leaves. Now, packed spinach leaves would equal about 4 cups of loose spinach leaves, somewhere with 3 to 4 cups. So go ahead and pack them into a measuring cup. Again, this is a soup, so the exact amount isn't as critical as it is with some things. But these really add a lot of flavor. You could add frozen spinach if it was packed in really tightly in a cube and you've gotten a lot of the water out of it earlier. It's not so critical that you get the water out of it at this point, but you don't want to leave it in a big block or it's not going to thaw as it goes in. So you probably want to thaw it before you add it in. Last thing I'm going to add a little bit more freshness to this is a tablespoon of fresh lemon juice. And this, of course, is going in at the end of the other ingredients because lemon juice is acidic and it's going to prevent the other things that we've added from getting tender. So that if we added it really early in when we were trying to soften up those carrots, it's going to slow everything down. So that's all that's going to go in here. And the last thing we're going to do is serve it up. This makes a great main course soup. It's full of protein, full of fiber. I think you need to add this one or at least try it in your winter repertoire as the season goes along. If you've got some fresh parsley, you can sprinkle a little bit of that over the top. Looks really, really pretty. Lots of color, lots of flavor. I hope you'll try it. It's Canellini bean soup. For Oklahoma Gardening, I'm Barbara Brown.
We have some miscellaneous tips for winter. They are: keep all your plants watered during dry conditions, even though some may be dormant, especially your broadleaf and narrowleaf evergreens and plants under eaves or in raised beds and planters. Irrigate all plantings at least 24 hours before hard freezing weather if soil is dry. Till your garden plots without a cover crop to further expose garden pests to harsh winter conditions. Now is a great time to design and make structural improvements in your garden and landscape. Send for your mail order catalogs if you're not already on their mailing list. Remember to start planning next year's garden and landscaping this winter. Check us out on Facebook and tune into our YouTube channel. And we're always open year-round for a peaceful walk.
Next week, horticulture professor and director of the Botanic Garden at OSU, Lou Anella, builds an ebb and flow bench. Mesonet Agricultural Coordinator Al Sutherland gives us a tour of a new Mesonet educational demonstration station out at the garden. Extension Consumer Horticulture Specialist David Hillock builds a homemade tool organizer for our green cottage. And Barbara Brown has a tasty recipe. So join us then for more TV You'll Grow to Love. To find out more information about show topics, as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure and visit our website, oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. And we always have great information, answers to questions, photos, and gardening discussions on your favorite social media as well. Join in on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find this entire show and other recent shows, as well as individual segments on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And tune in to our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel to watch segments from previous hosts. Oklahoma Gardening is produced by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University. The Botanic Garden at OSU is home to our studio gardens, and we encourage you to come visit this beautiful Stillwater jewel. We wish to thank our generous underwriters, TLC Garden Centers, Southwood Landscape and Garden Center, and the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry. Additional support is provided by Pond Pro Shops, Greenleaf Nursery and the Garden Debut Plants, and the Oklahoma Horticultural Society.